It's Christian Rada from What's Up America. Thank you so much. I have an amazing guest here. What's your name?
My name is Joel Richards. I'm running for District 4 City Council of Boston, Massachusetts.
That's awesome, man. If you were elected in, what would be your first thing to put on the table?
Oh, it's a great question. Well, I don't want to, if I'm elected in, and this won't be one thing. It'll be a multitude of things. Because right now, recovering from COVID, you have to be like, what do they call it, octopus, right? You have to have your hands in a lot of different places. So, first thing is working with unions to get our schools retrofitted because as we know, COVID isn't going away, right? So we need to build safer schools so kids can get back to the business of learning. So we need ventilated schools. We need schools that actually have air conditioning and cooled, right? So these are things that we need. And also, we'll get people back working. Right? So it'll help with our economic recovery and the health of our schools overall. And then putting solar on top of those schools, right? So we can help utility burden people stay in their homes, right? And we can also fight global climate change. You see, like, just in that one thing, we went to the octopus. We were everywhere, right? The environment, health-wise, and economics. So, yeah, I would say, like, that's one of the first things I'd want to do. But also passing a home rule petition for rent control.
Yes.
Working for that, because we're in the middle of a housing crisis, and if we don't control these rent prices, it's only going to get worse and worse.
Well, we always see it that the Federal Reserve's always backing up big corporations. We see big BlackRock, they're buying up houses 20%, 30% over asking prices. We were forced during this pandemic, man. We're not able to work. We have to take care of our most vulnerable. Like Mike Conley said over there, like our strongest link is the weakest one. So why are you here out today for Medicare for All?
Like I said before, is because I'm a Boston Public School teacher. I've been teaching for the last 15 years. I'm proud to be a teacher and a union member. And I serve families, like our neediest families that are the most vulnerable all the time. Newcomers to America, people that don't have the economic vitality of other families. So when Medicare for All, why we need it is because I've seen it. Yearly, where kids come to school with medical issues that can't be taken care of because they don't have the proper insurance. Kids crying or in pain. Kids go for weeks without glasses, right? So you can't learn without glasses. Kids coming in crying because their teeth are hurting or dealing with mental issues because they don't have the insurance to get health care, don't have the mental insurance to get health care for their, they don't have the insurance to get to meet a counselor or a therapist. So these are things that I want to, Medicare for All means.
Taking care of our community.
Yes, that's the best way.
You said an important thing, unions. And my channel, I'm more of a right populist, so that's why I'm out here. I'm trying to actually show some people on the right, because a lot of people on the right, they focus more on the corporate media. They like the Fox News, they watch Ben Shapiro, they want this. They're all kind of backed by these huge tax companies and everything. But why is unions so important? And to be honest, it's kind of a conservative way of instead of using the government to use union power and use your own labor power, it's the people. So why are unions kind of important, or your opinion about it?
Well, my opinion is because it's a human rights organization, right? A laborer can only fully realize their full potential, he or she's full potential, when they're unified with a group of other laborers, right? Like when your labor union comes together, you can get your working conditions optimal, so you can do the optimal job. You can also serve the community or the people that you're serving because you're doing the optimal and best and at the safest, right? And you're also not burdened for insurance, or you're having health issues. You're able to take the time you need to rest, right? So these things are important to a worker, right? Like to anything. If you think about it like a horse, or you have a racehorse, it needs its time to rest, it needs to be fed, it needs to be taken care of, so that a union is kind of treating every worker like a prize racehorse in that way.
How would Medicare for All help unions?
Well, it would take that burden of fighting for our health insurance off the table. So a huge part that is used against us as unions is our benefits, right? And especially in I myself in a very female dominated profession. So our union is majority female. So Medicare for All is very important to them when it comes to having babies. I have a former student here with me, and we were talking to her about Medicare for All, just explaining it to her, and she was like, wait a minute, you have to pay to have a baby? We're like, yes. It just blew her mind to even think about that, right? And so when are we going to stop living in a world where that becomes normal? That should blow everyone's mind.
Well, it's very interesting when, specifically about the culture war, right? And people, specifically some conservatives say, okay, in the lower incomes, yes, there's more people of color, and there's more, violence on violence of people of color, and there's so much single-parent motherhood. There's an economic root. People like to always scapegoat to, it's race. in my sort of, well, obviously there's generational. There's also obviously generational effects, but why do people not want to have mothers anymore? I mean, I'm sorry. Why are there single mothers? Why do people not want to start families? I feel like there's an economic root in that case. Sorry, what I was getting to say. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So,
but
as a Christian, as a theist, the family structure is important to Christianity, right? In my context, in my worldview, you have a wife and you have a husband. Mm-hmm. They get together and you have a family from there. But it's not about single motherhood. Isn't like a choice, right?
Obviously,
and it's usually about a lack of access to a lot of things. I will say, if you talk to any missionary as a Christian, even just talk to any missionary, they will tell you when poverty sets in, marriage dries up, right? Well, I can do bad by myself, exactly. Right? But we're still humans who desire relationship, right? And so, like, you still have children, you still have, sex, you still have these kind of things that happen. So if we want that to go away, let's provide the basic needs so people don't feel burdened. They feel like, I can live a life with someone else because we're not burdened economically. Right. We're not hunting for food, right? I imagine, that's just
100% agree. Yeah. You said it way better than me. I'm sorry, that came out. But okay. For Massachusetts, we have that mass care program, and technically we're pushing for a Medicare for all for the state. We have a Democratic supermajority. Do you think we can actually get that passed?
Yes. If this last couple of years have showed us anything, organizing events like this, people coming together, we can make it happen. Yes, definitely.
Okay. Do you support Enforce the Vote? Do you know Force the Vote is? It's basically on January 3rd, when Speaker House Nancy Pelosi was up, there was a movement started by specifically more progressives on the left. It's like, okay, we're not going to vote you in. Tell your politicians, hey, don't vote them in, and vote Nancy Pelosi in unless she brings it to the House. So it kind of puts her on the line. It might sacrifice seats, they don't actually vote for her. Do you think that's a better option, or do you think of a grassroots approach? Because Force the Vote is kind of like a hot topic within.
Oh, you mean force them to vote
on the
issue.
Yes.
Vote on the issue, coercive issue. That one, I don't know. It's way beyond me being a city councilor. I'm a civic councilor. I want to get your streets clean. I want you have better schools. I want you to have a more equitable funding and budget and open budget process and elected school board. So that one's a hard one to say, but what we need to do is keep doing what we're doing right now. Mm-hmm. Organizing, bringing people, morally, they have to answer to us why they don't want Medicare for all. Why do you want children to suffer? Let's just keep asking that question. And I think it'll work itself out. We're going to get this. This is a long fight, just like the ending segregation or ending lynching or ending slavery is a long fight. So we're going to get there because it's a human right.
Well, Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
What's up, America? It's Christian Murata. I'm here with Alan Meyers. Hi, Alan.
Hi.
So what do you do?
I'm a retired pediatrician. I worked for 35 years or so at Boston City Hospital, which is now Boston Medical Center, mostly in primary care. Now I'm retired. I work with a number of organizations that are working for large-scale health reform, single payer, including Physicians for National Health Program, the Right Care Alliance. There's a Fund Healthcare, Not Warfare, Fund Healthcare, Not Warfare project of Mass Peace Action. I also work with one of the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, healthcare working groups. I may have forgotten one or two along the line, but that's how I'm keeping busy these days.
That's awesome. So, as you know, we met through, I believe, Heather. Yes. And me and her on the train, I met her on the train, and we talked about, I'm more of a right populist. I do believe in more of the public option, but she was telling me how the public option isn't that good compared to the single payer. Can you kind of explain why and that argument for it?
Because the public option would preserve the complexity of our current system. That's what's costing us the money and the problems with efficiency. If we just add the public option without doing anything else, we've added one more possibility into this confusing morass of hundreds of private insurers offering thousands of plans that change constantly. And the literature is very consistent on this, that maintaining that kind of complexity costs us an extra, something probably between 10 to 20% of our total healthcare spending is wasted on the administrative effort that it takes to keep up with all of these multiplicity of changes. You know, one of the things that it gives me I laugh at it. It makes me angry when I hear people say, "Well, you know, we need to have people need to be able to choose what's right for them."
Right.
You hear that like a mantra, and it's a mindless mantra, and I'll tell you why. Because it's not like everybody. Medicine and healthcare is not the same as choosing a car. If you're in the market for a car, you can decide how much you want to spend. Do you want four-wheel drive? Do you want to buy a used vehicle? Sure, there's a vehicle that's going to be more right for an individual than another. Is the same thing true for healthcare and medical care? No, and I'll tell you why. Yes, it's true that any given individual is going to have different needs than another individual. But we all need the same thing in that we need to have our medical needs met, no matter what they are. We all need the same thing. I can summarize it in, I think, 8 words, which is everyone needs ready access to comprehensive care with no out-of-pocket costs. You could say without financial barriers. I would say with no out-of-pocket costs. Because when you add in out-of-pocket costs, all of the literature shows that people avoid care. Some people just don't have the money, and if it's going to cost them something, they will put it off, and that has consequences.
But people who have health insurance, they still won't go get the care because they're afraid for it costing more.
That's correct, and that's why free at the point of care is an integral part, has to be an integral part of improved Medicare for all. That's one reason why Medicare needs to be improved, because Medicare at this point is not free at the point of care, and you have to buy additional insurance. A lot of people don't know that. That's why I'm a big advocate of the word improved. Because Medicare, I'm now a Medicare beneficiary. When I first signed up for Medicare, I received a very helpful email from Medicare that said I could expect to pay for my supplemental plan and my Part D plan and other out-of-pocket expenses. I could expect to pay over $6,000 a year cash out of pocket if I'm healthy. That's if I never get sick and if I never need anything but my usual routine preventive care. I can still expect to pay over $6,000 cash out of pocket for Medicare with a supplement. The supplement is because Medicare Part B only covers 80%. You have to either find some other insurance, buy it out of pocket to cover that 20%, or risk losing everything if you have a major medical expense. Coming back to your original question, which was
awesome.
the public option. Another problem with the public option is going to be this. This is predicted and it's going to happen. If we have a public option, the private insurers are going to find ways of getting rid of their most expensive patients, and they have all kinds of ways of doing this, and that's who's going to go into the public option. The public option will preferentially enroll those people who have the highest medical needs, the greatest expense. The private insurers will dump them fast as they can when there's a public option available. And then that will overload the public option, and people will look at it and say, oh, see how much it cost, it doesn't work. Now, I'm basically in favor, I'm not all or nothing in the sense that if some legislation can give some people health care that didn't have it before,
It's better than nothing.
I'm all for it. But that doesn't make me any less, and that doesn't give me any less sense of urgency to work for something that really could do the job, which is an improved Medicare for all.
What do you say when people say, okay, health insurance makes up 17.8% of our GDP. Will the government be able to withstand all the people that are on private insurance? What do you say to that?
What I say is that I would point people back to the literature, which is there's a very high degree of agreement among economic analyses. And if People want to remember a name and look it up. From Massachusetts, Gerald Friedman, who's a professor at UMass, has produced a series of reports of how we could afford this. But again, the bottom line is, if we really have an improved Medicare for all, with everyone in and nobody out, it will save us money. We will wind up spending less in total, 10 to 20% less. The median washes out at somewhere around 15% less total spending. So it's not a question of, is it going to make us go broke? We're going to spend less. What's going to change is where those monies come from. They won't come any more from your paycheck, from your employer charging you a premium, a deduction from your paycheck to pay for your private employer-provided health insurance. No, none of that money is going to come out of your paycheck. A smaller charge will come out of your paycheck to support progressive taxation-funded public health insurance. That's how it's going to work. The average families that are making less than maybe $500,000 a year are going to save money on this. People who are making more than that are going to wind up paying more, and many of us feel that that's an appropriate way of.
Right. If they make more, they should pay more.
Right. The way of funding progressive taxes like we used to do.
Right.
I mean, under Eisenhower, the wealthy were paying way more as a percentage of their annual earnings than they are now. Eisenhower, whatever else you might think of him, was not a left-wing radical.
Right. Well, people like to throw in the left, or they'll say socialists, they'll red bait you or whatever. But we have socialist policies. We have Social Security. We
also have. Think of this. We have a publicly funded fire department. How would you like it if your house is on fire and you call 911, and they say, what kind of fire insurance do you have?
Exactly.
I'm sorry, if you don't have policy A, B, C, and D, we can't help you. Click. Why do we tolerate that for health care, which for many people is just as life and death as is a fire in your house?
It's a social safety net.
Why shouldn't we fund and manage health care in the same manner that we manage fire insurance or public education, for that matter? Everybody in this country is entitled to a free public education, and there are many people here today saying, well, that should extend through college, and I agree with that. There's no reason it shouldn't.
At least community college.
Yeah, people with means can choose where they want, but everyone should have an opportunity for higher education. Everyone. And the same thing is true for health insurance. And again, what everybody needs is ready access to comprehensive care without financial barriers, or better, free at the point of care. And that will cost us less than we're spending now.
Do you think Medicare for all will pass in this administration?
I doubt it. I got to say, I've been in this movement since 1986 is when I started to get active. So what's that, 35 years? I don't know if it's going to happen in my lifetime. I'm now over 70.
What do you think we need? Do we need a third party? Because I know the People's Party's coming out. We have the Libertarian, the Green Party, something to pull away from the two establishment, basically right-wing parties.
Well, I don't know what's the best path forward, but I do know that pressing the facts of the matter in every arena that we have. There are plenty of Democrats. I mean, of card-carrying Democrats. I'm one of them. I vote in Democratic primaries, who are serious advocates. Mike Connolly's another one, a serious advocate for improved Medicare for all within the Democratic Party. I don't know many Republicans. I think there may be a couple, actually.
I think Josh Hawley does. I think so.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And I've seen there's polling data out there. All the polls aren't in agreement, but there was an Ipsos Reuters poll a couple of years ago that found 70% support overall for improved Medicare for all, which included, I think it was 85% of Democrats and about 51% of Republicans, people who had self-identified as Republicans. So there is some solid evidence out there that the support is broad-based.
See, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm a right populist more, so I do believe in the social safety nets more.
Okay.
So that's why my goal is just show some of the right. Hey, stop watching your Ben Shapiro's and your Steven Crowder's as much. Get to your root base.
But
and this is, I don't know.
People have to realize, if you look at the whole population of all ages, about half of individuals in the United States, individuals and families, are covered by private employer-sponsored health insurance.
Right.
That's the piece that adds nothing but extra expense, confusion, and a heartache. That's the piece we don't need. That's the piece we should do without. Private health insurers, and about half of them, maybe more now, are for profit. And profit should have no place in the delivery of health care. I'm sorry, if you're going to serve if the goal of medicine is the optimal care of the patient, it can't also be to optimize profits. People have to know those things are in direct contradiction. And if you're bottom line, they want to make money.
Yeah,
they don't care
exactly.
how.
Yeah.
They want to make money. So if a decision comes up to give this patient, a certain, a treatment that, maybe is going to work, maybe isn't, but their clinician wants to do it, and the insurance company says, no, you can't, it's because their motivation is to maximize their profits. It's not to optimize the outcome for this patient. Profits are poison in healthcare. They should have no place at all. Not in healthcare delivery, not in healthcare insurance, not in pharma, nowhere, because people suffer because of that, and it makes it should make all of us angry.
It should. The amount of people that died during this pandemic who haven't had health care, or they didn't want to go to the hospital because
because it's going to cost them money they don't have, or that they can't afford, or they think they can't afford it because that's been their experience.
Well, thank you so much.
Well,
it was
welcome.
nice talking to you.
You too.
Have a great day.
Keep it up.